set. So how's it going? Nice to finally meet you.
I know. This is like a true face-to-face, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'll start by telling you like what Eli Freedom's purpose is. And 3-4 years ago, I realized that whenever I talked to people that wrote books or authors or coaches that I worked with, I was like, wow, this is really interesting information. And when I got that information from different people, like for example, people that do coaching on relationships or intimacy or life or expanding your consciousness, or even reading a book like Science of the Mind or Science of Getting Rich, every time I read these books, it really put me in the zone. And when I was in direct sales for many years, I used to plug an iPod like into my brain. And whenever I was traveling on airplanes and trains and everything, it always gave me new ideas. And those new ideas that I got from that information gave me a lot of fuel, and it put me in this state. So when I talk to people, whether it be in front of a room of like 500 people or 10,000 people, it reminded me of what these ideas can do if we activate them in our mind. And I started Eli Freedom with the purpose of really just interviewing people that were up to something big in life, and they were contributing to other people in a positive way. And I thought of Eli Freedom, I thought, okay, so whatever you put in your mind can activate you being alive and give you energy. And my wife came up with Eli Food, and I came up with Eli Freedom, because we also agreed that the food that you put in your body can actually activate you feeling a certain way as well. So between putting something in your body through your food and also through your mind, it causes you to be alive. And I never forget like going to this one Anthony Robbins event where he started at like 8 a.m. in the morning and went all the way to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, what is this guy on? And
Yeah.
he's just totally in state all the time. And he had one day that he talked about nutrition where a lot of people left. They're like, oh, I don't need to hear about my diet. But that one day with the diet and talking about being in state in a physical sense really made me aware that, like, how can you afford not to be fully turned on about life and be alive? Like, it's going to cost you so much in everything, like whether it be money or your business or a relationship. Like, how can okay just be okay? Like, why wouldn't you want an extraordinary life with your kids, with your wife, with your loved ones? And there's so many people that walk around, and I feel like they're constricted by these patterns or these thoughts or information that they learned along the way that maybe isn't true. And so this Eli Freedom the purpose was to really highlight like someone like yourself and what you're contributing to society, and have a conversation about new ways of thinking that could bring life to somebody, whether it be for business or their personal life. So I know that, like my background's very diverse. I was a Marine, I was in the fitness industry, I was in event planning, and I do social media marketing, and I have a digital marketing agency. But the way that I see business is people are now moving into like business having its own consciousness, where like if you're not doing something for the greater good of society, in this day and age, I think we're moving into this realm where you've got to have a purpose-driven business, a purpose-driven life, and people connect with the purpose and the passion more so than you just providing a service.
Yeah. Why are you doing it versus what you do?
Right. So with that, I want to open it up to you. I know you, George Martinez, like you've been very successful. I know you were in the training industry, the fitness industry, business coaching. And we talked a little bit, and there was this flow that we had on the phone. And of course, your company is called Mindflo.
Absolutely.
And if you can tell us a little bit about your personal story, like how did you get to this day and age, in 2017, where did you start? What did you go through? And what did you realize? And how have you been helping other people awaken their flow? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that about what brought you to this point, and sounds like you've been through a lot and learned a lot too, both business and professionally and personally. and it looks like you're applying it. So
Yeah.
that's why we're on this call. So yeah, man, I've been in the fitness industry for about 10 years. I grew up playing sports, football, baseball, wrestling in high school. So doing those things, I was always physically active and was physically adept. So just fitness was something that kind of came easily. I loved working out. I loved doing the physical activity. So I was like, you know, right after high school, school wasn't really of that great importance to me. So I said, you know, if I'm going to do anything, this is something I enjoy, and I'm going to go ahead and follow through with that. And to take it back a little bit further, if I'm going to do anything, this is something I enjoy. Oh, it's kind of a little reverb there. And to take it back a little bit further, I'm going to do anything, this is something I enjoy. You hear that?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of a little reverb there. Yeah.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, before
something you enjoy. We heard enjoy.
Yeah. Oh no, it's all good. Yeah, so before that, just something to kind of set the stage for what brought me to this point was when I was younger, my mom passed away, and that was really significant to me in the realm of, man, you know, it kind of awakened my intuition to when something's wrong, when things aren't going right, when some people have something maybe that's going on inside and they're not saying it, but you could kind of sense it and feel it. So your intuition, which is in this space, is perfectly normal conversation, but in other spaces, it's like you're just paranoid. But yeah, so I kind of had a feeling something was wrong, and the way things progressed was my mom passed away, and she actually committed suicide. So that was a strong significance to myself and my family, and kind of set us on this path. And why I chose fitness now, to kind of fast forward, I was 10 years old at that time, but why I chose fitness was because it was something I loved, something that I was good at, something I was passionate about. And the significance I took from my mom was, man, life is short. Follow your passions, follow your dreams, because in an instant, it could be robbed from you.
Right. How old were you?
I was 10 when she passed.
Oh, okay.
So that's a pretty defining moment in life. And so that's what led me to choose fitness. You know, there was all these other options. I wasn't really invested in education, like I said. So fitness seemed like the right path for me. So I was working odd jobs. I did personal training. I did competitive bodybuilding and was successful there. And so my goal was to help people and serve people in a way that, hey, I'm good at this. I can help you and show you how to be more fit. So as time progressed, and I'm still involved in fitness in some way, like the physiology is obviously important. Like you were saying, nutrition is extremely important. And we can want all the meat and potatoes of, hey, help me get more success in business, help me get more success in life. But when it comes to nutrition, people kind of check out and they're like, oh, well, I don't need to worry about that. That's not having any significance on my relationships or my business, when it actually is. So I'm still involved with the physical, but in the last 6 months, I met someone that was a client at the time and a friend, and we had a conversation, and that conversation was about business and how things were going. And he's like, man, you know, this conversation is really awesome. And he said, you should be doing this professionally, like this kind of coaching. You know, I know you do professional fitness coaching. Like I was doing CrossFit coaching. I was doing weightlifting coaching and just personal training. And you need to take this into a space where it sounds like you could do some things with that and have impact in a professional setting. And deep down, that's always been a goal of mine, like an unspoken dream that we all talk about. Yeah. And I went that path. So that's how Mindflo kind of came about. And now to the present, we work with organizations in helping develop clearer lines of communication, help identify what's not working, what is working, and how we can move forward into a vision for the company. Because everybody says they want their business to grow. Everybody knows the core areas that you need to be investing in. marketing, sales,
Right.
you know, those things, but it's the intangible things. It's the things that are kind of going on behind the scenes, going on within the mind.
Stuff. Maybe give us an example. You don't have to say the name of the company or anything, but perhaps give us an insight. If you were to walk into a company, what are some of the things that you see that you notice that perhaps are not being noticed by other people, and how have you been able to help them through your perspective and your coaching?
Okay, perfect example. So a lot of times, first question we ask is, what are you looking to get out of training your employees? Well, we're looking to get better communication. We're looking to this department and customer service improved. That's usually what's told initially. Once we go in and see what's going on, and when I say what's going on, I'm looking in terms of how are people communicating? How is the leadership communicating with the team? What is the atmosphere like? When I say atmosphere, like what's the general tone? Everything has like a pace to it.
Right.
So what's the general tone? Is it everybody a little more lower energy, like kind of out of sync? And
right.
There's some, you know, lack of communication going on, like where, hey, this is that person's job. And a lot of that, like they have to do it, not me. It's their responsibility, not mine. A lot of that going on, like finger pointing. Right. Well, that's going to give us a clear indicator. Is it really the service department that needs to be improved? Is it really the customer interaction that needs to be improved? And that's where the questions begin. So it's really just inviting a conversation in of what's working. And we could see that, like, hey, you're in business. Something must be working.
Right.
And, you know, that statistic that in 5 years, 50% of businesses go out. So if you're in business and you've been around longer than 5 years, you're doing something right. But you're trying to improve. Obviously, something's going wrong. So simply put, it's more the atmosphere and the communication is where we start. Like, how is everybody communicating? What is their engagement with each other as a team, as an organization? And then what that's going to therefore translate into the engagement with the customer. So if there's disconnected communication going on within the organization, there's disconnected communication going on within the customer service too. And it's almost like once you make that invisible visible, it's like almost like sticks out like a sore thumb. Right. And it gives us so much room for opportunity there.
You know, it's funny you're talking about like the energy and the communication, because I'll give you an example just based on what you shared. Like, for example, I worked at one company where I walked in and like, it wasn't the best office, and it was kind of like drab, and the leadership just kind of stayed in their office, and they wanted everyone to like be in momentum and be like moving, and they wanted their business to grow. But yet the owners of the company didn't want to talk to anybody. They just would stay in their room, like on the other side. And then the person that was another owner, who was a sales manager, had his door shut most of the time too, or was out like doing whatever. And so there was kind of this sense when I walked in that like everybody was just kind of doing their own thing, and nobody was monitoring or kind of driving this energy like through the company. And it had like the stale energy, right? There was like a stale energy when you walked into the office. And I started working there, and you know, at the time I was doing like a lot of business development and kind of like sales manager, director of sales, internet, whatever you want to call it. So I literally had to clean out a lot of the energy in the office, because some of the people, like, they didn't want to change, and they were so used to the old story of what the company was like that there was no way for it to grow. And then I had the experience of actually growing a team from the beginning at another company that I took from like 2 employees to 100 employees.
Wow.
In 12 months. And we built like a sales center. We did the whole over the phone. I created everything from scratch, and everything from the call center to advising the CEO and the CFO. And when I think about the little things, and we're talking about like, I brought in music and I created this culture that was fun. And and there was like music pumping, and all the chairs were nice and clean, and they had like this fresh energy. And we had these monitors up. It was almost like if you were at like Vegas, and like you see like, oh, so-and-so just got $1,000 bonus. And we would have a slide that would rotate that would give quotes on success, like every couple seconds. And it would be like, you know, it would be like Albert Einstein and all these people. So it was just really cool because we created this flow of energy where people literally came into the office and they just wanted to be part of the company. They were like, oh my gosh, like there's something going on here. Everybody was like on, you know, their headsets, and there was music playing. We were giving out money. We were giving out cash. And it created so much momentum. I mean, now that I think about it, all those little things that we did made such a major impact, like in the environment and the growth of the company. And we did feedback sessions with the employees, like whether they were like one of the kind of like, maybe there was like someone that set the appointments, then there was like kind of the closers, then there was the CEO. But we brought everyone together as a team, and they all gave feedback, and they all felt important. And by giving people the value of their voice and kind of like sharing what they thought would help, and taking all that and kind of wrapping it up into a recipe, we got buy-in from a lot of people, and the company grew really fast. And now that I think about it, I actually bumped into someone at Whole Foods, like literally this past weekend, that worked at the company still. And they're like, wow, Hugh, you know, you brought all this to the company. He's like, I've never seen a company grow so fast. But it was all about the flow and the energy. It was about the energy that was at that company. And I went and I met with another company a couple weeks ago, and they're a $7 million company, and they want to take it to like $20 or $30 million. And I walked in, and the energy was low. Mm-hmm. You know, there's people smoking outside. There's kind of like everybody kind of doing their own thing. And it was funny. I got the total sense that like, hey, this company is a $7 million company, but they could be a $30 million company like that. I mean, we're talking, if they just made these little changes, but it has like this family dynamic and everyone's kind of doing their own thing.
Yep.
And I totally see like the money just coming down. Like if I just turn these two levers and this flow and that flow, it would just flow, right? But it's like they're so in it, they don't see it.
Of course.
And that company, I mean, hey, they made millions of dollars. And now that I think back, because they sold the company that I grew to like a big corporation that acquires companies. And, you know, the owners probably made millions of dollars. They don't work there anymore. But they sold the company that I grew. I wasn't one of the owners, unfortunately.
So we got to find out how to get you into that position.
Yeah, but the flow, like you say, and what you see, the conversation that is not happening, but somebody else can see that, in a way, call it intuitive, or call it the details behind the details.
Yeah, it's what's being left unsaid.
Right. But for you or me, we completely notice it. You know, it's kind of like, wow, you know, there's 100% aliveness in a company, and you can walk in and they could be at 20%, and they could be operating their business, and they could be making $6-7 million a year. But it's like, how do you get the other 80% to go from 7 million to 50 million?
Well, it's also what's in the realm of the possibility for them. And if they're used to a specific set type of growth and they forecast it that way, well, if you're observing it that way and that's what's possible, and if you're following a statistical model, well, you're going to live up to that every single time, instead of going within the company and improving the quality of the life of the people within it. Because then that's going to improve the quality of the life of the customers, quality of the life of the business. It's very esoteric to hear, You know, there's very little tangible to application involved, but
Right.
it's all about, it takes an investment to receive an investment. Sometimes investments will yield 1, 5, 1, 2, 10, 5-fold. You never know what that yield's going to be. You know, statistically, your investments, if you're getting 7% a year, that's really, really good.
Right.
On investment.
It's funny. I was working with a solar company, and you know, going back to like working on the people is working on the company. From like a personal growth standpoint.
Lost you.
I took 5 salespeople to an Anthony Robbins event at that company that went from like 2 to 100 people. And I brought the Anthony Robbins people in to just give a talk. And like the 5 or 6 of us that went to the Anthony Robbins event over the next 90 days, we outproduced the rest of the sales team. Just based on the fact that we got something out of that event for ourselves. And because we had these breakthrough results for ourselves based on our experience of what we got out of those, that like unleash the power.
Yeah.
Like we brought that energy into the business and we outproduced the other people. And so a lot of times, like for example, I met with a solar company and I noticed that everybody was just kind of going in their own direction in the company. And there was kind of like, well, you handle this and you handle that. And I saw like this, call it integrity, call it teamwork, call it company integrity, company teamwork.
Or synergy.
There wasn't like this alignment, you know, there wasn't like an investment into the employee. And a company might be doing $10, $20 million a year. But you look at companies like Lululemon, which is like a fitness company. And they have their managers go through, you know, Landmark Forum and personal development programs. And now they have their own personal development program. Or you look at, you know, big, huge corporations that send their people on these retreats where they're growing the people. And by default, you grow the company. So I a lot of times I'll invite an owner of a company out and be like, hey, you need to check out, you know, and it could be anything. It could be Anthony Robbins. It could be the Landmark Forum. But if you're not bringing that into your company, you're not going to create this culture that's going to take you to like $100 million company. There's just another, you know, back to your esoteric situation. There's like this whole other realm that business owners miss because they're just running their company to make money for the company. And exactly. The people are just pieces. Like some company owners will look at their company and go, well, we pay our employees, they get paid. That should be enough, right? We pay them.
Exactly.
But what's the difference between an employee that's excited, that brings that passion and their enthusiasm to a company? Like I'll come and work at a company just on a project or consulting. And they'll be like, how do we get you to work for our company like full time? Because you're just so on fire all the time. I'm like, hey, all your people could be on fire. If you invested into your people to be on fire, your company would be on fire. So it's like people respond to it. Like you go to a company, you talk to people about their flow and they talk to you and they're probably like, George, everything you're saying makes sense. How do we bring this to our company? Or they talk to me, same deal. But the question is, what if every one of their employees and the people that were the leadership of their company, because we know it's all about like the law of the lid. You know, I read, you know, John C. Maxwell that talks about that if you want to look at what your company is going to do in the future, look at your leadership.
Absolutely.
Because you lead by example. It's not manage people and tell them what to do, and if they don't do it, you know, fire them. It's like just like a baby. You know, they do what you do, not what you say.